today. And you'll have an opportunity to submit questions through the chat during each of the programs. We'll take questions between each presenter, and then if there are any other remaining questions at the end, we'll go ahead and address those. So feel free to use the chat box. Myself and Andy from the Chamber will be keeping track of that. So our first presenter this morning is Poonam Patel. Poonam was appointed as the Assistant Deputy Director of Business Investment Services at the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development in 2020, where she's also been serving as a Business Development Specialist for the Bay Area region since 2018. Previous to her work on the CalBiz team, she served as a permit specialist to provide regulatory assistance to California businesses from 2013 to 18. Poonam navigates businesses through state incentive programs and provides tailored site selection services for employers, developers, and consultants who are considering California for relocation and/or expansion. Poonam grew up in San Jose and received her master's in business administration at the University of California, Davis, and she now lives in Hayward, California. So please welcome Poonam Patel from the California GoBiz office.
Thank you, Beth, for that introduction, and hello, everyone. Really appreciate the Chamber inviting us to this, this webinar. The focus of my presentation, as you've heard from my background, is to help incentivize employers through different resource programs that can help you be successful here in California. So with today's focus being on the hiring side, a lot of what I'm going to go into today is support programs that the state offers to help with hiring. So I'm going to share my screen here. Give me one second. Make this a little bit bigger. Okay, hopefully that is big enough for everyone to see. So as Beth mentioned, I'm with the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, or GoBiz for short. It's too long, so we'll respond to and are known as GoBiz. We are a relatively new state agency. We're not as old as EDD or DMV or some of the other ones that you've heard that have been around for a while. We were created by former Governor Brown in 2012 to be a center of economic development and job creation efforts in the state. And our services existed more or less before that. However, once Governor Brown took office, he consolidated all those services under one office to help with economic development. So just a little background on us. Today, as I mentioned, I'm going to go over a little bit about GoBiz, how we're structured, the individual units that we have that collectively work with economic development, and then I'll dive right into some of the tax credit programs and workforce support programs that we have to help employers here, and then just wanted to wrap up with pointing out resources that we have for identifying a lot of these funding tools that I'm going to be mentioning today, but also other programs that may be of interest to you all to navigate through as well later. So just a quick snapshot of who we are and what we do and the services that we provide. As Beth mentioned, I'm specifically working on the business investment services side. So I work directly with companies here in the Bay Area to help navigate them through different programs. Also help with site selection efforts, to work with local economic development partners at different cities and county level staff on their economic development teams to find suitable sites for companies. But we have an array of different units and other programs at GoBiz to also assist with business development. Our permits team helps businesses navigate through different regulations that are required, or permits, licenses, certification forms that may be needed to get up and running. We also house a online permitting assistance tool where businesses can look up their city, their county, and we have a list of about 147 business types that you can search through to get an understanding of what permits you're going to need at the local, state, or federal levels. So really good starting tool for businesses, small businesses that are starting out and trying to understand the compliance requirements that are going to be needed over time. But our permit specialists also serve as mediators to help businesses get through any regulatory issues, whether that's at the local, state level. And so, you know, they can be of service to you if you're ever encountering any permit issues, to either give advice or actually contact regulating parties that have a touch on your project where you may need help in getting through the regulatory processes with them. We have a small business team that's been very much forefront and center during the pandemic in helping small businesses with COVID-19 relief grant funds and other supporting funds to support them through the pandemic and beyond. Most of their programs help small businesses that have capital access barriers. So we have a plethora of different financing programs at the state where we provide loan guarantees, loan loss coverages, collateral support to help small businesses get up and running. And they also help with any business-to-business procurement opportunities where businesses are looking to contract with the state to sell their services or products. So they can help navigate through those different contractual processes as well. We have an international affairs team. California, of course, likes to think of itself as a small country with our GDP. And so our international affairs team hosts foreign delegations often. They are also helping small businesses as they are trying to export out to foreign markets. They have a grant program that they work in concert with the federal government called STEP, where they help bring businesses to different trade shows. They also help with website development, translation services. So a lot of different efforts that they have with small businesses in particular, but also helping businesses that want to do business here in California from a foreign direct investment standpoint and getting them up and running as well. And then I'm going to go over this last program, the Cal Competes Tax Credit, a little bit more in depth. This is actually a tax credit program that we run in-house at GoBiz. It is a competitive incentive for employers who are looking to make investments and create jobs over a 5-year period duration. So I'll get into that a little bit more, but that is also in-house within our team too. We've also got some ancillary departments underneath us that all collectively help with different areas of economic growth here in California. We've got the Film Commission. They run their own separate film tax credit program to help out with film production here in California. They also administer permits. An Infrastructure and Economic Development Bank that has tax-exempt bonds and loan guarantees for businesses, but also helps municipal governments with infrastructure-related financing opportunities as well. We've got a zero-emission vehicle team that's leading our effort in trying to promote more adoption of ZEV vehicles and ZEV infrastructure across the state. And we've also got Visit California that's run by a number of different tourism districts across the state to promote the attraction areas and recreational destinations that we have here in California. That's just us in a nutshell. So I'm going to get right into the programs here that are kind of related to the hiring side of support that we have at the state. This first program is one of our more popular programs. It's called the California Competes Tax Credit. It is a corporate income tax credit that's based upon the 5-year growth that companies plan to have here in California. So it's a prospective program. Employers are applying to this before they've perhaps made a decision to have growth or are weighing out the opportunities of having that growth happen here in California or in other states, for example, or maybe not even at all. And so this program is structured in a way where companies are competing for tax credits throughout a fiscal year. And telling us, the state, essentially what their 5-year business plan is going to be, how many jobs they plan to hire in the next 5 years, what investments they plan to make over that duration, what wages they're planning to pay their employees, and also what income tax credit amount, a dollar value, would be a needed value for you, the company or employer, to have this project be successful here in California, whether that's based on pro forma statements that you're outlining of costs over the 5-year duration, or if you're comparing costs versus other states and how it may not be as feasible to have a project happen here in California. So it's actually up to you to tell us, what do you need to have a project work out here in California? The way that this program is structured is we get 180 million in corporate income tax credits to allocate every fiscal year. And in California, when we say fiscal year, we mean July 1st to June 30th. And we split up that allocation out into 3 application rounds. So we actually finished 2 rounds already for this fiscal year. We had a round in August and we also had a round in January of this year. So August of last year and January of this year, and we're going to have another application period open up in March. We are in March now, so almost 6 days out from now, we'll have that application period open from March 7th to March 28th. We've got 104 million available in this round to give out to companies for tax credit considerations. And the way that this works is, it's a non-refundable income tax credit with a 6-year tax carryover, and it's tied to achieving contractual milestones. So those hiring goals and those investment goals that you're going to have over that 5-year period duration. This team that runs this program does very helpful webinars to get employers to understand how the program is structured, what makes a strong narrative case to be competitive for this program. So definitely recommend folks that haven't been exposed to this program yet or interested in applying to please check out those webinars, and I have the link at the bottom of this slide and can provide these slides at the end of the presentation too. The next program that I wanted to go over is the new employment credit. This is another corporate income tax credit program that the Franchise Tax Board runs here in California. The unique aspect of this credit is some people get confused, they think it's a payroll credit, but what it actually is it's a corporate income tax credit that's based upon the wages that you pay certain employees. And what I mean by certain employees, I'm talking about full-time employees that fall into a couple of different considerations. So we could be talking about employers who are interested in hiring people who have been unemployed for longer than 6 months, veterans who have been separated from the armed forces, people who are on CalWorks or called CalJobs, are going through CalJobs, or ex-offenders, formerly incarcerated populations. If you fall in any of those buckets, then you would be eligible and you're hiring those types of employees. And there are some other considerations. You're also paying them above minimum wage, has to be 150% above minimum wage, and are doing so in economically distressed areas. So for Berkeley's consideration, there's a map that you can actually go look up what areas qualify for this. And I have the link to the mapping tool there. They're typically high unemployment, high poverty regions. And if you look at Berkeley specifically, we're looking more closer to the waterfront. So to the left of San Pablo Avenue, essentially. If you are hiring these types of workers, or interested in hiring these types of workers, and you're paying them qualified wages, and 50% of their work is being done in these geographic areas, you would be eligible to receive 35% of their wages back as a corporate income tax credit program. So that's the benefit of this program. And that's 5 years from which you hire them, yet you would be eligible to claim that credit. There's also, I think, another program that's going to be discussed today called the Work Opportunity Tax Credit. This is somewhat similar to that, maybe a little bit more stringent in terms of the criteria that has to be met. And that's a federal program. This is a state corporate income tax credit that would be able to be utilized. Okay, similarly, so we have another tax credit program that actually is quite new. The governor signed this program last year. It went into effect this year, January 1st, 2022, and it's available through December 31st, 2026. And this is specifically to align employers' interests in hiring homeless populations. So the way that this credit works is it's somewhat similar to the former program that I mentioned. You have to be hiring homeless, someone that's either currently or recently homeless within 180 days of their hire. And they have to have been receiving services from a homeless service provider. That's essentially how you would get that would be the certifying organization, essentially, that you would receive a certificate from for an eligible employee that you're trying to hire. And the workforce development boards, I know, are very much in sync and in tune with this program, and they are promoting it as well throughout the state. And the credit is available for, as I mentioned, until 2026. But the benefit here is employers can receive as little as 2,500 to 10,000 in tax credits, corporate income tax credits per eligible employee. And that's based on the hours that they work. If an employee, for instance, works 0 to 499 employees, that's not going to amount a credit. But if it's anything above 500 to less than 1,000 hours worked in a taxable years, you could get up to 2,500 for that eligible employee. Whereas if that employee is working 2,000 or more hours in a taxable year, you could get as much as $10,000 in a tax credit. Very interesting program that was released last year. We're hoping that it takes more to be seen as it rolls out and how effective it's going to be, but wanted to share this nonetheless as a resource that you may be interested in. And then the last program I wanted to mention is the Employment Training Panel. This is actually a very well-utilized program here in California by employers who are trying to get assistance in training or upskilling their workforce, whether we're looking at new employees or existing workforce. This program has existed for a very long time. And the way that it works is essentially every employer, even if you just have one employee in the state of California, pays into unemployment insurance. And the state takes that pool of funds and gives them back to a percentage of it back to employers in priority industries to help with training and the incurred expenses of training their workforce. So there is a training cap for each contract, and we have multiple companies that routinely, come back to the employment training panel for programs or for training support. But each contract is capped at 500,000. There is an avenue to look at a critical proposal for beyond that cap that's maxed at 600,000 if you have an immediate or urgent need to get training underway, need to be, expedited through the process for review, or if you are for some reason seeking beyond the cap, there is a review for the panel to consider that as well. There is a focus on new job creation projects. However, as I mentioned, existing trainees can also be considered at the same time. I've listed out the priority industries here, but the way to think about this program is the state's not going to dictate what kind of training you have to do. That's up to you. We're just providing the funds to help you do that training, and you can look at this as, you purchase a new equipment or manufacturing equipment, you need to get your workers trained on how to utilize that. It could be for general skill set based training, where you need to get your new employees on par with. It can be online, virtual, in classroom. So it's pretty flexible in the way that it can be administered and what it can cover. The only types of training it's not going to be able to provide is what's already maybe statutory or federally required, like workplace health safety training, things like that. So anyways, really powerful program. Definitely recommend you take a look at this if you haven't heard of it already. And all of these programs, we have different program specialists that help us, in getting, as we don't administer any of these programs, we definitely have partners that can help navigate you through those different programs as well. So just wanted to call out and end here, just wrapping up that on our website, we have incentives that are resources that are organized by different industries as well. So there's a lot more that I could have gone into: manufacturing, sales, and use tax exemptions, for instance, to help manufacturers purchase equipment over time. Other types of clean tech grants or ZEV related grants, research and development tax credits and grant opportunities too. So there's a plethora of different programs out there, but we have these tools to help you navigate. We also have a comeback guide that outlines most of the relevant new and existing state funding resources for recovery and success here in California for businesses to take advantage of. But we also have a grants portal too. Just grants.ca.gov. It's as simple as that. You can type in a keyword search or research grants by state, a department, or by subject area, and take a look at the grant opportunities that are live or maybe forecasted to come as opportunities for you to apply for as well. And again, if that still doesn't work, we have a number of different subscriptions here that you can subscribe to, where we're constantly keeping our economic development partners and businesses updated on what's to come. And if that still doesn't work, or if you just want to call me up front, that's what we do here. We have a team of 8 regional specialists. As I mentioned, I'm in the Bay Area. I'm happy to help navigate you through anything that would be of use to you. One of the things that we specialize in doing is just having a direct conversation, getting to understand you, your business, what you're trying to do here in California, so that we can help steer you in the right direction to programs that can assist. So can't stress that enough. And thank you all today for allowing me to present and share information about our services and programs.
Thank you so much, Poonam. If anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I do have a question. If employers are interested in hiring formerly unhoused or currently unhoused individuals, how can they connect with those folks? How do they find them?
Yeah, and I believe our partners at the labor agency through workforce development boards, but also we have a program website that I'll share a link to for the homeless hiring tax credit. I think you're talking about that one, Beth. I mean, the folks who have been unemployed for longer than 6 months too can also be considered for that other program, the new employment credit. Definitely recommend get in touch with us, or we can connect you to workforce support program specialists as well within your respective area to help navigate those waters as well. Franchise Tax Board and the Labor Agency are working very much in concert around the homeless hiring tax credit program that just was released by the governor last year. So, yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions before we move on to our next presenter? All right. And if you think of any, feel free to throw them in the chat and we can come back to them at the end. So next up, we're going to bring on Wendy Martinez from the Employment Development Department with the state of California to talk about the Work Opportunity Tax Credit. So Wendy, take it away.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Glad to be here. Thank you for having the Work Opportunity Tax Credit Program share our information and give you detailed information about our program. The way that we do it, actually, I'm going to show you in our webinar video, which I will be sharing right now. It pretty much going to cover everything about our program. And if you have any questions, we can always, at the end of the presentation, we will answer as many questions as you might have. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do the webinar now.
And welcome to the Work Opportunity Tax Credit Training Webinar. Thank you for taking the time to join us to learn about the Work Opportunity Tax Credit Program known as WOTC. We're glad to share it with you. My name is Rick Helmer, and I have with me Felicia Phillips and Leslie Glover from the WOTC program team. Our objectives for today are first, to describe the WOTC program and explain how this program assists individuals and employers. Second, we will identify the WOTC target groups and tax credits that are available to employers when hiring individuals. Next, we will explain the application process for employers and the benefits of the online application method. And lastly, we will provide the WOTC contact information. So let's get started.
Our first objective, what is the WOTC program? The Work Opportunity Tax Credit is a federal tax credit program available to employers for hiring individuals from traditionally hard-to-hire target groups, such as recipients receiving TANF, ex-felons, and veterans, to name a few. The WOTC program is available in all 50 states and 2 territories, which include Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. The WOTC's administrative procedure involves Congress reauthorizing the program and its target groups every 2 years and its funding on an annual basis. In California, the Employment Development Department administers the processing of the WOTC certification. The WOTC Authorization Center not only processes all the WOTC requests, but it also provides customer service and technical assistance.
To better understand how the WOTC program puts Californians to work, here are some facts. The state of California receives and processes more WOTC requests than any other state or territory. After California, Texas and Florida are the second and third largest programs, respectively. Did you know that California processes an average of 400,000 WOTC applications each year? As a result, California issues an average of $550 million in potential tax credits each year. Now let's take a look at how WOTC helps California. WOTC encourages the hiring of individuals who face significant barriers to employment by providing a federal tax credit to employers who hire these individuals. WOTC helps boost California's economy by putting more of the population to work, therefore saving funds of supportive services like food stamps, unemployment, and others.
Now that we have described the WOTC program and how it helps Californians, let's explore the second objective, which is identifying the WOTC target groups. Target groups are categories of individuals who are traditionally hard to hire. Let's take a look at the various target groups that the WOTC program assists. Currently, there are 10 target groups, with tax credits ranging from $1,200 to $9,600. Those target groups are Group A, Short-Term Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, or TANF recipients. Group B, Veterans, which has 5 subcategories. Group C, ex-felons. Group D, Designated Community Residents. Group E, Vocational Rehabilitation Referrals. Group F, Qualified Summer Youth. Group G, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, food stamp recipients. Group H, Supplemental Security Income, or SSI recipients. Group I, Long-Term TANF recipients. And finally, Group L, Qualified Long-Term Unemployment Insurance recipients. The definition of each target group and its qualifications are established by the U.S. Department of Labor, while at the state level, the Employment Development Department, as the state workforce agency, administers and provides WOTC program services for these target groups.
Now that we have identified the 10 target groups, let's focus on the Veterans target group. To honor our veterans, the WOTC program has developed a processing preference. The processing preference allows the veteran target group to have a priority of service over all other target groups as required by U.S. law. To be considered a qualified veteran applicant for the WOTC program, the individual must have served 180 days of consecutive active duty, not including training, or have been discharged or released from active duty for a service-connected disability, and not have a period of active duty, not including training, of more than 90 days that ended during the 60-day period ending on the hiring date. Additionally, qualified veterans include those who received any type of discharge from the U.S. military. And lastly, it is important to mention that there is no age restriction in this category. In the Veterans Target Group, there are 5 sub-target groups. These include 1. A veteran who is a member of a family that receives SNAP benefits, or food stamps. 2. A veteran with a service-connected disability who has been hired within 1 year of discharge from active duty. Or 3. A veteran who is unemployed for at least 6 months prior to being hired. 4. A veteran who has been unemployed for at least 4 weeks. Or 5. A veteran who has been unemployed for at least 6 months prior to being hired. These are great incentives for employers to hire veterans. Employers can receive up to $9,600, which is the highest tax credit in the WOTC program.
Now that we have identified the 10 target groups and the priority of service for veterans, let's explain the application process for employers and the benefits of the online application method. When does the request need to be submitted? Applications for requests of certification must be submitted together by an employer or agent, either online or mailed, and postmarked within 28 days of the employee's start date. If the employer or agent chooses the online method, the electronic application can be submitted at www.edd.ca.gov/WOTC after completing a short one-time enrollment process. If the employer or agent chooses the mail method, the paper application can be sent to EDD WOTC Authorization Center at 2901 50th Street, Sacramento, California, 95817. Please note that the Work Opportunity Tax Credit Authorization Center does not accept faxed or email applications. In August 2013, EWOTC was introduced, offering several online services to employers and agents. Here is a screenshot of the EWOTC Employers homepage. As you can see, there are multiple functions and features that employers and agents can access. Now, let's take a look at the benefits of using EWOTC. Among the benefits, employers and agents are able to submit online WOTC certification request applications, check the status of submitted online and paper applications dating as far back as July 18, 2011, print determination letters for previously submitted applications, and enable faster application processing, which allows employers to receive the tax credit much sooner than in previous years. Currently, over 90% of all applications are submitted electronically.
Next, let's discuss what forms are needed to apply. There are 2 forms that must be filled out and signed by both the employee and the employer to request a certification. The first form is the Internal Revenue Service IRS 8850, which is the pre-screening notice and certification request, and is required for all WOTC applications. The second form is the Employment and Training Administration ETA 9061, which is the Individual Characteristics form, and is also mandatory for all WOTC applications.
Occasionally, there may be a need for additional documentation to support an individual's eligibility. If the employer has any of the following supporting documents for the applicable target groups below, these could be submitted with the WOTC application. The acceptable supporting documents are, for veterans, the DD-214, or if applicable, a letter from the Veterans Administration stating the veteran's disability status. For vocational rehabilitation referrals, a letter verifying the referral from the Vocational Rehabilitation Agency, Social Services Agency, or Veterans Administration. For ex-felons, court documents, correctional institution records, or a statement from a parole officer. These documents should include the inmate identification number with their conviction and/or release date. If filing by mail, the employer could submit supporting documents along with the paper WOTC application. If filing electronically, the employer should wait for a request from the WOTC office to submit supporting documentation.
Once the WOTC application has been reviewed by the WOTC office, a letter of determination will be mailed to the employer or the tax representative. If the letter of determination is an approved certification, the next step for the employer or the tax representative will be to file the tax credit with the Internal Revenue Service. Additional processing information can be found on the IRS website. If the letter of determination is a denial, it will state the reason why it was denied. Now that we have covered the WOTC application process, let's move on to our last objective, which is how to contact the California WOTC office. There are various ways to contact the California Work Opportunity Tax Credit Authorization Center. You can choose from the following options. You can contact us via our website at www.edd.ca.gov/WOTC. Also, you may email us at wotcsupport@edd.ca.gov or call our toll-free telephone number 1-866-593-0173. Lastly, you can reach us by mail at the Employment Development Department, attention, WOTC Center at 2901 50th Street, Sacramento, California, 95817. Our customer service team is available for questions regarding the request and certification of the Work Opportunity Tax Credit. The WOTC office is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Pacific Time. Please note, the WOTC office is not open to the public.
And so, to summarize our presentation, let's review the main points we've covered today. First, we described the WOTC program and how it assists individuals and employers. One of the benefits for employers is that they can receive a federal tax credit whenever they hire individuals with barriers to employment. Second, we identified the 10 WOTC target groups and the 5 subgroups for veterans, as well as the tax credits associated for each group. Furthermore, we stated that the veterans target group has a processing preference, allowing them to receive a priority of service over all other target groups as required by federal law. Next, we explained the application process for employers and the benefits of submitting the WOTC application online. Finally, we provided the WOTC contact information as a resource to answer any questions or provide assistance. Remember, although the WOTC program is federally funded, it is administered by individual states and territories, and in California by the Employment Development Department. As such, the WOTC program contributes towards EDD's vision and mission by strengthening California's economic vitality, growth, and prosperity, and delivering valuable services to California's employers and job seekers. Thank you for joining us today. We hope this information was helpful and valuable. Don't hesitate to contact us for any assistance. And again, thank you.
Okay, so now that the webinar is complete, I pretty much cover everything, how the program works, what are target groups, how to contact us, what forms to complete, things like that. Are there any other questions that you might have that I could answer for you?
I have a question, Wendy. Are there caps on how many employees you can hire and take advantage of the tax credit?
No, you complete the form for each individual employee that is hired. It is required for the employer to submit the application within 28 days from the employee's start date. That is very important. Other than that, it doesn't matter how many employee applications the employer submit.
And it's a one-time tax credit per employee.
Yes, that is correct. Yes, per company it is one time, but the actual employee, if they work in different locations, that specific employer can submit the application for that individual.
Any other questions for Wendy about the Work Opportunity Tax Credit?
Yes, Beth, I just wanted to ask Wendy, how do they determine the dollar amounts for the tax credits based on the populations that are, being benefited or supported in that program? I was just curious.
Well, since we work for the Department of Labor, which is a federal tax credit, it's determined by the Department of Labor.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how, the amount that, they were the ones that chose the amounts pretty much, yeah.
Okay, do we know how they make those determinations, or is there a way to research that?
Going through the Department of Labor website for the Work Opportunity Tax Credit Program, I'm sure they do have that information in there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, if you have any other questions along the way, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll go ahead and bring on our next and final presenter. Carmelo San Mamez is a Senior Strategic Partnership Coordinator for the Alameda County Workforce Development Board. He has 20 years experience in the field of workforce development and has successfully implemented innovative workforce solutions for San Mateo County, the city of San Francisco, and Alameda County. So from the Alameda County Workforce Development Board, let's welcome Carmelo.
Everybody, thanks for being here today. I know you guys are learning about a lot. It's a lot of information. You're learning about a lot of different programs, but I have a couple more to share with you and just generally what the Workforce Development Board can do here. We're a local organization. We are Alameda County wide. I do have a slide deck, so I will start sharing that screen to. Okay, hopefully everyone can see this. Okay. Can somebody give me a thumbs up if you can make sure everyone's
You're
seeing
good,
that
Carmelo.
correctly?
Looks great.
Okay, so like I said, we are in Alameda County. There are different workforce development boards throughout the state of California. I believe there are 53 of them. And then we are all organized under the state of California, where there's a state of California Workforce Development Board, which is housed under EDD, although there's a new structure going on there, but there's a close relationship to EDD. And so we have multiple centers throughout the county. We have 4, and we try to divide those up into different areas to cover the whole geography of the county. As you know, Alameda County is a pretty big county, so we've done that through a sub-regional model. So if you're in the Eden area, kind of Castro Valley area, Rubicon, we contract a lot of these services out to service providers so that we can kind of have a deeper kind of reach into the communities to reach more individuals, and hopefully individuals that you wouldn't otherwise be able to reach. But in the Eden area or central part of the county, we have Rubicon programs. And then we have a career service collaborator that works with many, many different community-based organizations and other colleges. And they oversee the other 3 areas, which is the North Cities, the Tri-Cities, and the Tri-Valley area. So if you're in any one of those, there's definitely a center that can assist you. A lot of services are virtual right now as we're still kind of in the pandemic mode, but a lot of their services are there. And that's they have a dual kind of service. They specifically are going to be working with adult clients or dislocated workers, which are individuals that are seeking employment. So it's a great access point for employers to reach out to. They also have business services at each one of those locations. So there's a whole team of individuals who just do business services and have kind of business facing. So if you want to do like a career fair, or you want to have you want them to post something you're recruiting for, any kind of service like that. Sometimes they do in sector-based panels and other kind of webinars and events to help employers and job seekers come together. We also have a similar scope of services and different service providers that are youth focused. So if you have a need for younger adults, and younger adults is it usually they're about 16 and up, so it could be 16 to 18, but WIOA, which is one of the kind of funding mechanisms we work through the DOL, which is the Workforce Opportunity and Innovation Act, is basically categorized as those individuals as 16 to 24. So within our youth services, we have individuals that are over 18 also. And again, those services are throughout the county, but we do just distribute them differently because we feel like the focus for those individuals are different. But both of them have, like I said, employer facing and candidate referrals they can make to businesses. Okay, I wanted to give you guys slightly a different perspective. I will talk about programs in a bit, but I feel like some of those programs are known to individuals, and I kind of wanted to just give a different perspective on this. I just wanted to go over some numbers with you guys. If you guys will recall that in March of 2020, feels like a long time ago, we were at the lowest unemployment rate we had ever been to. And then we shot up to the highest unemployment rate we had ever been to. That happened in like a 2-month window, right? Lowest to highest ever, right? It was like a free fall, straight off a cliff. And although these numbers aren't yet finalized for March, because when we get numbers from unemployment insurance, they are behind or a couple months. But I can tell you that as of January, we were already at 4%. And for perspective, 5% is considered by economists to be a full employment market. It's where the market is even. And there's a balance between job seekers and job openings. And you know, percentage point up or down doesn't seem like a lot, but I'll say this. I think of unemployment kind of statistics kind of like the Richter scale, right? There's a huge difference between a 1.0, a 2.0, and a 3.0. It's the same thing with unemployment. At 5%, you can find employees, but they're not easy to reach. There's just kind of like an equilibrium. But if you get down to 4 and where we're going to head back to, which is 3, around in the 3s, that's when you are going to what we call a job seekers market. It's hard to find individuals, and you need different strategies to reach individuals. So definitely use the centers to kind of get there around that. Traditionally, the Bay Area has enjoyed lower unemployment than the state, and usually where California is lower than the national. Although right now the national is also at 4%, so we're kind of holding even. Okay. So the business services unit of the Workforce Development Board has other resources for you also. In terms of information referral, we work with a lot of the programs you've already heard about, right? So whether that's the homeless hiring tax credit that we can assist you with connecting with locally, individuals that may qualify for that tax credit for your business. But we try to have a no wrong door policy, right? So if you ask us about anything you've heard about, whether it's WOTC or something else, we'll try to get you to the right place. But another thing we have is we can develop incumbent worker and cohort trainings, which means if you know that you want to have a group of individuals train, we can connect you with community colleges, adult schools, or private sector providers that can provide that training, and we help offset some of those costs. And sometimes we fund those entirely. In fact, I guess I should have started by saying one of the things we do is administer state and federal dollars and local dollars to help individuals get to the training they need so that they can fill the positions that our local employers have. That's all money that comes out of tax dollars, so it's prepaid. There's never a cost to an employer to do that, whether it's the recruitment or whether it's training or whether it's upskilling, whatever that looks like. Those services are always free to all businesses. We also have a program called Rapid Response and Layoff Aversion, and what that means is if ever you've had to shut your doors, or like recently a lot of you may have had to close even temporarily, you may have been required to file a WARN notice, which is a notice that both the federal and the state ask you to complete if you're laying off over 50 workers. And that notice eventually comes to a locally elected official, and then it comes across our desk here. And then we have a whole suite of programs that basically go to your site and can deliver a presentation like this, but in much more detail about the services as they relate to the job seekers to help transition them into new employment opportunities. Likewise, there's services similar to that ahead of when you're going to do that to see if there's other we can connect you with other economic development programs to help your business stay afloat. We call that layoff aversion, right? That's kind of avoiding going into layoff. We usually work with Rapid Response. We'll usually work with our EDD partners, and we'll have them come on site and talk about unemployment insurance benefits. And we'll work with other individuals and organizations to help deliver a suite of kind of package services. And think of it as outplacement services, but again, free. So you're not giving that to an outplacement firm. Employer industry panels, that's something we regularly kind of convene. So if you as a business feel like that's a good engagement opportunity for you to speak as a panelist, that's something we regularly put together. So if you think that's a way to reach more prospective candidates, that we're happy to kind of bring you on to one of our panels. Employer incentives, OJT is the most popular one, which is on the job training. And what that is up to a $5,000 reimbursement to a company who takes on an employee who's going to do some level of training. So they're either new to that job, so it usually works for your best for your entry level positions, but it could be a mid-level position that you're that someone's coming into that may have had similar experience, but still is going to need a little more runway for the onboarding. We can help reimburse that. That's usually half of the wage of the individual, up to $5,000. And then apprenticeships, there's a big move at the state level and at the federal level to promote apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeships. So if you need help connecting with that, we work with DAS, which is Department of Apprenticeship Standards, to help kind of promote some of those. And lastly, training opportunities. Like I said, there's a whole host and a list of training opportunities that individuals can qualify for. But if you want to do that in some aggregate way internally, if you have like a training need, we can connect. We work with all the community colleges in the area and some of the CSUs, the adult schools, so we can help try to find what that looks like. That could be as simple as like a vessel, like a vocational ESL program that you want to start, or it could be something a lot more elaborate and complex in terms of technical training. Like I said before, we're in a job seeker market. So these are some trends I wanted to share with you. You know this if you're looking for employees and you can't find them. Jobs continue to outnumber workers right now. There's an increase in upward pressure on wages that continues to happen. We're seeing and we see this most at the lowest levels too. So positions that were and sectors and careers where we're normally kind of lower paying are moving up. Which is creating kind of a reorganization in terms of, like, say, somebody who was working at McDonald's or fast food, not to call out or specify McDonald's specifically, but they're paying more now. So we're seeing if McDonald's is paying $17.25 and upwards, that's going to cross over, and an individual who may have been working in that sector may now be competing. Those jobs will now be competing with, let's say, advanced manufacturing or entry-level assemblers or warehousing positions. So we're seeing that across the industry. Remote and alternative work schedules is something that we know has already happened due to COVID, but most employers are telling us they're going to continue some version of that, if not all of that, if not expand that to make themselves more competitive in recruiting new workers. Higher worker expectations. This is things we're seeing like, can I bring my dog to work? This is really, this is just one example, but it's paid interviews. Candidates want to be paid for their interview time now. So there's a lot more pressure on the employer. Like, what is an employer doing, or what can a business do to help make a more, I guess the best way to say it, a more comfortable and or competitive work environment. And then work-life balance, right? So individuals who before may not have used most of their sick time or their vacation or mental health or other resources around balancing work. That's a bigger expectation for workers today. So that's something you may want to promote if that's something your company has access to or has programs for. Here's some mitigation strategies around this. So if you're doing targeted outreach and recruitment, there's things that for example, I don't use Instagram. I'm not a TikToker. I'm a little bit above kind of that demographic, but I want to not ignore these as much as I may not personally be getting on this to share my latest dance craze video. These social platforms have tremendous kind of influence around younger workforce. So if you're trying to reach those, if that's a demographic that you think can benefit your company, you may want to look into these. Just like maybe people are more familiar with LinkedIn. But each one of these has a segment to it. LinkedIn, for example, if you're a construction worker or retail or fast food, you're probably not going to have the best luck on LinkedIn. LinkedIn tends to sway towards or lean towards more professional kind of positions. Flexibility is another thing. So split shifts, vacation, remote, hybrid, any version of this is going to help you with your recruitments. And like I said, this kind of goes back to employer and job seeker expectations. Split shifts could maybe allow you to bring in students where otherwise you may not be able to. Organizational purpose and culture. This is also generationally kind of a big deal for the generations that are coming after my generation. Was a Gen Xer, but this is definitely, what is the purpose? Why does your work matter? The ethics around it, diversity and inclusion. People want to feel connected and feel purpose to their job, and why this job is different than another company, right? Why one company is different than another company when you're all kind of in the pool for the same labor force. Promote from within. This is a big strategy that we ask a lot of people to consider. So this can be the upskilling, like I said, and that could align with the cohort-based training and the other internal career pathway programs that we can help you assist with developing. Apprenticeships is another great opportunity. An apprenticeship is a longer term kind of, the person's your employee, but they're kind of on a graduated learning curve and also making more money as they progress. Some of these can be long term. So this can help with retention. This could be 2, 3, or to 5 years apprenticeship models. And then OGT is on the job training, which is the program I spoke about before, which we have incentives to help reimburse around. Fiscal incentives, hiring and retention bonuses we're seeing a lot of these. We are currently working right now with the state to try to have this be an allowable use. We really want to see if we can have like a matching program, right? Because we're seeing Amazon's paying like $3,000, right? And some of the bigger companies are getting these bigger sign-on bonuses. And so we're seeing if we can may have an exemption made for an allowable use so that we can help have some of these hiring bonuses to maybe a matching situation. But once that becomes allowable, we'll definitely have a flyer and build a whole program out for that. Accelerate your onboarding. You don't want to lose a candidate because you're taking a long time. I work for government. We take way too long to onboard people. We've lost a lot of candidates in that process. And then job announcements. You want to streamline these as much as possible too. There's a lot of times these get written at some point in your organization and nobody kind of re-looks at it, right? And it says work experience, oh, we wanted college graduates or we wanted 2 years or whatever. It might be time to kind of reevaluate those, because a lot of times the work experience is equivalent to or can even out qualify a person and versus education. So you may want to look at kind of revising some of those now. Okay, lastly, I know I'm just a bit over time. I want to say we're going to have one of the services we provide is an human resources hotline. So there's a number you can call. It's free to any business in the Alameda County. That's prepaid. If you have any HR kind of questions, I'll make that information available to Beth and she can share that with you guys. But we also have these webinars. And the next one we're going to have is coming up in April. Here's information. I'll have a more unified looking flyer than this to share with Beth. That'll have a recruitment link on there that is you guys, but it's basically kind of what we covered here, but in much more in detail. It's going to be like an hour and a half long. And it's going to be provided by the California Employers Association. So they have a very different kind of perspective. They see millions of hires throughout the state. So they can talk to you about the experiences they have with their companies. And yeah, I think it's a great resource. I can take questions now.
Thank you, Carmelo. Any questions for Carmelo and what he just presented on?
Just a quick question. Carmelo, you just shared that flyer just now for April 13th. That looks like a great event. Is there a way we can get a link to register for that?
Yes, I'll make that flyer available to Beth. And Beth, can you distribute it? Is that the best way to do it?
Yes, I'll be sending everybody who registered for this program. I'll send you all the slide decks that we looked at today, as well as a flyer when Carmelo provides it to me.
Great, thank you.
The other thing I wanted to share with you guys now that it's on top of my mind was when we were talking about the homeless hiring tax credit, I do want people to understand that. I think it's a great resource for businesses and also for individuals needing to find employment. But a lot of times when we say homeless, we think about an individual living under a bridge. Under the way that this program was structured for who can qualify for that program, it's a much more expansive definition. So it's individuals who are at risk of being homeless are also included that. And that could be someone who's currently couch surfing, currently staying in a temporary housing situation, someone who's got in an argument with their roommate, someone who has a foreclosure notice, somebody who has an eviction notice, but is still living in a home. All those individuals would qualify under that tax credit. So it's a bit more expansive than what many people think of as traditionally as a homeless individual. So I just say that to encourage you to kind of utilize that and connect with that resource.
And now, Carmelo, those individuals still have to be connected with a certifying agency. Is that
correct?
Right?
In Alameda County, the state gave that to the continuum of care. And in Alameda County, there's 16 agencies that do that work. And what we're trying to do now is work with all of our system providers to have those individuals connect with them to get that certification. And we're also going to ask the individuals that come into career job centers who may qualify that to go seek that certification So as to avoid kind of having the employer having to do some of that, we want those individuals to be able to present that documentation. That's good for 180 days. So it's somebody, it could even be somebody who was homeless, who's no longer homeless, but accessed those services or was certified for 180 days. Those individuals would qualify. So there's a couple steps to it. And you definitely have to reserve the credit with the state of California Franchise Tax Board. But before you do that, you also have to report your hire to EDD, just as you normally would when you're, you have a new employee. There's windows there. There's like 20 days to do that, and then another, I think 10 days. So within the first 30 days of making that hire, you want to reserve that tax credit. And also just know although there were some limits to like, up to $10,000 and up to $30,000 for a company, there's also a bigger limit at the state level. I think it's 30 million. So you don't want to miss your window to reserve that tax credit as soon as you have that. And the earlier you make that hire, obviously the more hours they work, the more it counts towards the 10,000. And I think we'll have a flyer for that also within the next week, and I'll make sure to share that with you also, Beth.
Great. Yeah, we appreciate your partnership with us, Carmelo, and we're always happy to send out your information to our members. Any other questions for any of our three wonderful presenters today? All right, well, I can't thank you all enough. Like I said, I will be sending out the slides and some flyers to everybody who attended today. We'll also post a copy of this webinar to our website later this week. So if you'd like to refer back to it, you can do so at berkeleychamber.com. So thank you everyone for attending, and we look forward to seeing you at our next presentation. Thanks a lot, everyone.